Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mic Drop Show. Hey, this is where we're going to talk about real estate, real freedom, and real results. Hey, I'm your host, Mike Morawski. I'm an investor, an educator, and your favorite deal sourcing, cash flow obsessed guide through this wild world of multifamily real estate. Hey, we're going to cover a lot on this show. This is new. You might know we used to do a Thursday morning live. Well, we're changing that entire format. We're going to be here every Wednesday morning. We're going to have interviews from 8-figure investors. We're going to break down deals. We're going to talk about capital raising and strategies. We're going to talk about real war stories from the field. Hey, this is the show for professionals who want to go from a W-2 or your paycheck to portfolios. And if you're feeling this energy, don't forget to subscribe. Smash the like button, follow me wherever you're watching or listening from. We're going to be on all these platforms. If you have questions, drop them in the comments this morning or DM me directly. Hey, your topic might be the one that's next on the Mic Drop Show. We're going to go live every Wednesday morning at 7:30 Pacific time. This is your weekly wealth workout. All right. Let's get into it. Hey, today I'm going to talk about three questions from the field that I get from coaching clients or people that are thinking about joining coaching. And for the next couple of weeks, we're going to just do question and answer. So as I mentioned earlier, if you have questions, drop them in the chat or DM me, and we'll get those on next week's show or the week after. I also will be having some guests. So if you know somebody who would be a great guest on this early morning show, definitely reach out. Let me know who that might be. Get us connected and we'll get them on the show. One of the first questions that it seems that I've been getting a lot lately with new coaching clients is, what's a reasonable time frame to go from 0 to 100 multifamily units? And I always find that kind of interesting, and I think I find interesting because, everybody's going to be different, right? Everybody in the way that they do this, that they grow their business, that they grow their portfolio is going to be different. I think when I first got into the multifamily business, I locked up my first deal. It was 11 units. And I was super excited about that. I'd gone from the residential side of the world into the apartment business. And I thought, that this is going to be an easy transition and things would just kind of go naturally. And they didn't. There was a lot to learn, a big learning curve. But what was interesting was I did that first 11 units. I learned a lot. And the next deal I did was 64 units. And then the next deal I did was 187 units. And I did that within the first 6 months of being in the business. So, one thing about myself is I'm a little bit more of an overachiever. I push a little bit harder. I stretch myself more. Are you somebody like that? So, I think to answer that question, you can get there as quick as you want to get there. You can have that first 100 units under contract, under your belt, under management, as quick as you want to get there. You might go out and buy your first deal at 100 units. Hey, one of my coaching clients, Kate, her first deal here is 64 units or 65 units that we just did. So I have another client that we're working with. We just went to contract on a 24 unit deal, and he's already underwriting other deals, trying to see what else is in the pipeline. So how fast do you want to go? One word of caution around that, though. I built a $100 million company. And for those of you that don't know me or don't know my story, follow me, go to my YouTube channel, pull up an old podcast or a podcast that I've been on and listen to my story and listen to my journey, because it hasn't always been easy. It's been rocky and it's been up and down. And I was out of the game for 10 years and back after it again. But how do you get there and get there systematically and get there without making a lot of mistakes. I grew way too fast. I built $100 million company. We owned 4,000 units in 30 months. And I don't suggest to anybody to do that, especially coming out of the gate, because there's a lot to learn. One of the big things is asset management, right? How are you managing those assets? Because if you're not watching the numbers, if you're not watching the costs, you're going to get out of control pretty quickly. So going from 0 to 100 all depends on the person that's trying to achieve that's trying to go in that direction. How fast do you want to get there? Maybe you're going to go out and your first deal is going to be 20 units. Maybe it's going to be a 2 flat. Maybe it's going to be a 100-unit deal. Maybe you got a great team. And remember this, and you might want to write this down for yourself, but we are a function of capital. If you don't have capital to buy those deals, you're not going to get there quickly. So this comes down to raising capital. This comes down to who's in your network, how big is your network, how are you growing your network, and who's entrusting in you to buy that asset, run and manage that asset. So we're a function of capital in everything that we do. And we're building businesses through syndication, and syndicating those deals is a group of people coming together to share in the benefits that business, that multifamily business that you're buying, throws off and kicks off. So, I think that's a great thought to think about is, there's a lot of people out there saying buy businesses today. And I think businesses are great. It's a great diversification, right? Whether it's a car wash or a laundromat. But, if you look at businesses like McDonald's, right? McDonald's was never in the hamburger business. They were always in the real estate business. If you look at the wealth in this country, people have created and built wealth on real estate. Any high net worth individual that or that has had success, the Kennedys, the Rockefellers, people like that, they all have real estate in their portfolio. And if you dig in, a big portion of that real estate is multifamily real estate. And multifamily gives you the economies of scale, and it gives you a lot of velocity in what you're trying to do. So another question that comes up is, what's the ideal number of units for my first multifamily deal? Well, I'm in the coaching and training business. I work with individuals, teaching them how to syndicate, how to buy deals, how to do everything from picking the right market to sourcing the right deal, building a buying strategy, how to raise capital, all the way to the underwriting, the exit planning, and building your resources, your systems, and your processes. How many units is acceptable for your first deal? That, again, it depends on who you are, where your risk tolerance is, what your ability to run this business is for you. But, I've had clients, we've bought 20 units for their first deal. We've bought 60 units. We've bought 100 units for their first deal. I have 2 of my coaching clients. One of our first deals back in 2021 was a 40-unit, 2-property complex in Tampa, Florida. And, that was about just under a $5 million purchase. So, where are you comfortable? What do you feel comfortable with? If you're comfortable thinking you're going to be able to go out and raise a couple of $1 million on your first transaction, then by all means, go find that $5 million value add that you're going to be able to raise the capital on to do those capital improvements, to have operational money to get that deal closed. So again, I think those 2 questions really come down to you. They come down to who you are and what you're trying to achieve. A lot of this really boils down to your goal, your vision. Where do you want to be? I asked someone last night, I was on the phone with a friend, and I asked them last night, I said, hey, where do you see yourself in 3 years, 5 years from now? And, it was very clear they had a vision of where they wanted to be. And, I think we all need that, so if you had to stop what you were doing right now, just kind of eliminate some of the distractions around you and just write down, where do I see myself in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? Can I do this business? You can do this business. Anybody can do this business. It doesn't matter what background you come from. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter what your credit is. And, we are going into one of the greatest times in history to be in the multifamily business. We're going into one of the greatest times in history to own and operate multifamily real estate. We're going to see an onslaught of deals come on the market, which we're already seeing. I mean, this year alone, I have seen 40 to 50 deals a month coming across my desk in different markets. And, we monitor about 40 submarkets around the country. We watch those markets. We watch for population growth, for job growth, for household income, for employment diversification. What are the economic drivers in that market that are causing those markets to grow? And where do we think the market's going to be? Not just based on paid data, because there's two kinds of data that you can get, right? You can get free data. I always tell people, hey, your best friend is Google, right? Go to Google, ask it a question, and you'll get a pretty good answer. ChatGPT, technology today will give you a lot of answers. I've been working with ChatGPT a lot on market traps, right? What are the best markets to be into? And it's just been like asking questions and ChatGPT giving me answers and asking questions and building this platform that, I should be able to go in and put in a submarket or a zip code and say, give me the market traps. And now it's going to produce for me the answers to the 13 questions or 11 questions that I ask about a market, right? So do you know what you're doing, how to pick those markets, how to find those properties, what your buying strategy is, and where are you sourcing those from? So a lot of things to be thinking about. I always say in this business, there's a lot of moving plates. So you're buying a multifamily business. Some cases it's broken, some cases it's brand new, but your job as an operator is to repair any of those inefficiencies and to make that run more effectively. So the third question, and I really like this one because I think that this, goes to what everything that I've kind of talked about here this morning. But, how do you balance getting good deals with also needing the velocity on your capital? It's kind of a two-edged sword, right? You want to buy a good deal, but a lot of times the rougher deals, the ones that take a lot more work, the heavier lift, as we like to call it, you're going to get a lot more velocity on your capital. C-class deals today that are broken, or you're buying from a slumlord and you are going in and reinventing those. It might not be a good deal today, and it may take you 12 to 24 months to get it to be a decent deal, then to get it to be a good deal. But if your business plan is 5 to 7 years, and that you have the team in place that's going to help you get there, then that could be a good product to buy. But, again, I think all three of these questions this morning are, about who you are. Who are you as an investor? If you had to write out a avatar for yourself to say, hey, this is who I am as an investor, or this is who I want to be as an investor, what would that look like? And, what do you need to learn along the way? Where do you need to grow? I always tell people, I say, hey, none of us grow professionally until we grow personally. And so are you continually stretching yourself? A rubber band, when you take it and you continue to stretch it, it will never go back to its original elasticity because you're pulling it out, right? It's the same thing with who we are. It's the same thing with our brain. I've been in this business 30 years, And you'd be surprised what I've learned in the last 6 months, because things keep changing, technology keeps changing, and you keep learning along the way. One of the first things I should have done when I went into business was gone and gotten a coach, right? Gotten a coach to help me grow and push my business forward. Hey, I scaled from 0 to 4,000 units in 30 months. I didn't do that very systematically, but we grew. Back to that first question, what's a reasonable time frame for 0 to 100 units? Maybe within your first year, right? In your first 12 months, 9 months, you could get that done. But growing a 4,000 unit portfolio in 30 months, boy, there was a lot of bumpiness along the way. So, I hope that answering some of these today and getting out of box a little bit and talking about a couple of different things is helpful for you. So, hey, thanks for being here this morning. Quick heads up, a couple things coming up over the next few days that you really want to dial into. So write these down for yourself. First of all, on Friday this week, I'm going to be speaking at the Master the Art of Raising Capital and Wealth Building. It's a virtual event. It's Thursday, April 4th. We're going to go ahead and put the link in the bottom for you so that you can get registered for that. It's an online virtual event. Boy, there are some heavy hitters going to be on this on Friday. I'm super excited about participating, but I'm even more excited about listening in to everybody else and seeing what I'm going to learn. A friend of mine, Leanne, is putting this event on, and it's going to be a great event. So if you can dial in on Friday this week, April 4th, I'm speaking at 12:35 p.m. I'm going to go through a presentation on raising capital, some of the systems and strategies, some of the lead magnets that we use, and the things that have been effective in raising capital. So if you're a capital raiser, if you're somebody who's a syndicator, you should be a capital raiser. Make sure you make that event. And then next week on Tuesday, April 8th, is my annual boot camp. It's a one-day event. It's free. It's virtual. Hurry up and get registered for that event. We are going to blow the doors off it this year. We have a lot of registrations and a lot of people that are going to be there. Full day from 9 a.m. Central till 5. I have Dugan Kelly who's going to be on. He's going to be talking about legal aspects of syndicating. Karen Hall is going to be talking about self-directed IRAs. I'll be on walking through every step of the way of building your multifamily portfolio, and a lot of talk. I have a great panel this year of capital raisers that are actually raising capital and in the midst of the market and where we're at. So you're not going to want to miss either one of those events. Hey, if Friday works for you, great. If Tuesday works for you, great. If both days work for you, even better. So get dialed into those. The links will be in the bio below. Click on those, get registered. Remember, both of them are totally free. So, dial in, get that education, maybe learn something that's going to help you go to the next level. Like I said, I'll drop those invites in the link or in the description below. So, hey, let's level up together, okay? That's a wrap on today's episode, though, the Mic Drop Show. I hope you're walking away with some nuggets and maybe a little bit of mind shift or something different to think about. Maybe even a straight up blueprint that says, hey, I'm going to do this for the next several days. Maybe part of that is being on Friday's event or being on Tuesday's event, plugging in. Life doesn't happen by accident. It happens by, and are you out there designing your life? Are you being intentional and taking the action necessary? So whether you're just getting started in this business, whether you're scaling up or leveling out, keep showing up. That's what we have to do every day. Keep exercising those muscles. It's like going to the gym. If this episode gave you some value, do me a solid, would you? And please smash the like button, the subscribe button, follow me, like this, share this with someone who who's building a business, who really needs to hear some of this morning. Remember, we're not just trying to get a paycheck, but we're trying to scale a portfolio that is going to give you wealth for life. If you got questions, if you have anything you want me to talk about on this show over the next few weeks, definitely DM me. Let me know what topic you'd like me to cover. If you have a guest that would be a great guest on this show, please reach out to me, connect us. Love to start in May having people on and doing some great interviews. So next week, same time, same energy. Until then, stay focused, stay cash flowing, and keep stacking those doors. Have a great week, everybody.